Hi, this is Shauna, the CEO and founder of Fuel Talent. One of the things I have loved most in my 25-year recruiting career has always been the stories that people tell. Stories of leadership, career choices, company ideas, and team building. My inspiration for starting the What Fuels You podcast came from being curious about people's lives and wanting to help share their stories. What path brought them to this place? What decisions did they make that led to failures and successes? Who influenced those decisions, and what lessons were learned along the way? I hope you enjoy the What Fuels You podcast. Michael P. for
Patrick
Davidson is today's guest on the What Fuels You podcast. Michael is the CEO of Gen Next and the Gen Next Foundation. Both are built upon the premise that what leaders in a society pay attention to has incredible consequences for human thriving. Together, they make up an eclectic community of high-powered and purposeful leaders committed to shaping a world that is free, just, and prosperous for future generations. He wakes up each morning to tackle our leadership deficit, education, economic opportunity, and global security. In fact, Gen Next Foundation's counter-extremism work has been featured in Wired, Bloomberg, Axios, ABC News, Interpol, and the U.S. Congress, and the White House. You need to be Googling Michael Davidson. Michael has held leadership positions in a range of for-profit and non-profit areas, including concierge medicine, education media, civics, and more. He lives in Southern California with his beautiful wife, Jenny, and their 4 children, which we will discuss. He plays guitar like an amateur. Come on. He's a fanatical learner, and he has been wrestler and judoka.
Yeah,
So,
well done.
judo.
Yeah.
Yes. If you ask nicely, he'll draw a foolproof diagram explaining our bicameral legislature. Welcome, Michael.
Yeah.
You're our first non-Seattle traveler for the podcast.
Really?
Yeah.
I've listened to every episode.
Really?
So it's that
I'm
stands out to me that I'm the first non-Seattle.
I'm cavelling. Do you know what that word means?
No.
Cavelling is a Yiddish term for like, I got spilkas. That's another Yiddish term.
What?
Cavelling is like, I'm feeling touched. And I'm feeling like all warm and fuzzy.
Well, good. Then me too.
So thank you. Okay, rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
Since you've
Woo.
listened, then
Yes.
you know.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Since you read like voraciously beyond, how many books do you read a year? That's not part of the rapid fire. I'm just curious.
Oh, man. I don't know. Probably 30 to 50.
Wow. Okay, that's a lot. And what book do you recommend most frequently to people that you know well?
I would recommend, it kind of changes with the season, but I guess it's Rapid Fire, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, or How Adam Smith Can Change Your Life.
Okay. All right.
And if it's fiction, Goldfinch,
Oh.
and heartbreaking work, A Staggering Genius.
Okay. Good to know. If you could have dinner with any person in history, not alive, who would it be?
Jesus, Mohammed, Moses, Margaret Thatcher, and Susan B. Anthony.
All together at one dinner table.
Yeah, like a dinner table.
Oh my God, you will like host.
Yeah, and Abraham Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson and George Washington.
Okay. What is a habit that you are trying to break?
Oh, a habit I'm trying to break.
Yeah, you can be honest with us.
I think, wow. I think it's more a matter of I'm trying to force myself into certain habits.
Okay, so which ones are you trying to
I want to make sure I meditate and journal every single day.
And are you doing that?
And I want to be present. I'm doing it probably five times a week.
And how
So
long have you
I'm
been
pretty
doing
good. Probably almost a year now, maybe a year and a half. It's a game changer.
Really?
Yeah, the game has been changed by doing that.
Okay.
It's very important. You referenced meditating a couple times on this podcast.
I know. I'm hopeful that maybe it's like aspirational. If I talk about it, maybe it'll happen.
No, you just need to do it. You just do it.
I keep hitting delete on my like Calm app.
It's totally worth it. I think just being present, having a good time.
Yeah, well, you're good at that. You always make everybody feel really special. That is one of your
Thank you.
of your genius qualities. It's very good. Okay, if there was a book written about your life,
Whoa,
what would the title be? Depends which Michael we're talking about. Gen Next CEO Michael.
This sounds silly, and it's not. It's definitely not clever, but I think just he tried and he cared.
I like that.
Yeah,
Michael P. Davidson.
I think I admire effort.
Yeah,
quite
getting
a
in the
bit.
ring.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that.
If you could come up with something a little more
This one,
glamorous,
no, but I
the
like
arena,
that. Whatever, we'll hire a brander because we will be writing a book.
Yes.
That's not my job. My job is to have you on this podcast.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I have one.
Okay.
Citizen Dad.
Citizen Dad. I like that.
Yes.
Write it down so you don't forget when the book comes
Yes.
out. Okay. This one's easy. What's your cocktail of choice?
Margarita.
Like
Cadillac margarita.
Okay. Because was that from your like health kick that you were on and you like took out all the sugar and
Yeah. No,
Cadillac is the clean one, right?
No, that's the fancy one with the Grand Marnier and yeah.
Oh, I see how you roll.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's get down to
But I
business
like all
and talk
cocktails,
about
Mai Tais, you name it. Gin and tonic. Give it to me.
have cocktail will travel.
Yeah, please.
Okay, so tell me, I met you as the CEO of Gen Next and an incredible organization that I'm proud to be a member of. Tell me about you, like old school you in fifth grade. Were you smarter than a fifth grader?
Fifth grade. Me in fifth grade. So I was fifth grade. I think it might have been still.
Where were you
what
raised?
age is
Where
that?
were you raised?
I was raised in Orange County, California.
Okay.
But North Orange County, so near Los Angeles, in a tiny little city called La Palma. I have 3 older siblings and 2 younger siblings. So for a long time in my life, I was the youngest, and I think I developed some of those qualities. And then I was the middle-ish, the 4th, and I developed some of those qualities.
What are those qualities that you're talking about?
I think,
birth order stuff.
The youngest, you're kind of like, I think you're spoiled, you entertain, you keep people happy. By the middle, you're sort of stuck. You don't know, what exactly your role is in the family. And then as the oldest of the youngest, then you're the leader. You have the responsibility. And so different seasons in my life, I was able to experience those different roles in the family. And I think that I experienced that in life now. But yeah, so my siblings, it goes girl, boy, me, and girl, boy. So in 5th grade, I don't remember what age that would make me, but it might have been around the time
I think
my
5th grade's like 10.
Yeah. So I was, then my little brother would have been born around that time.
Yeah. And so were you sporty, nerdy,
Oh, yeah.
curious?
I trained all the time. So as a kid, 5, 6 years old, I would be running bleachers at the college and training for wrestling and judo. And I got
Did you
to
spit into
compete.
cups and like wear?
I didn't spit into cups, but I did cut weight. I did wear trash bags. I did.
What
go in
weight class were you in?
saunas. At that age, I have no idea.
But I mean, when you were competing in high school, right?
So I injured my back then. So as a child, I was very competitive. I got to travel around the world, which was cool. Well, I got to travel to former Soviet bloc and Russia, which was pretty exciting, and then around the country to compete. But
You need to wrestle Joel Mazestrano. Have you guys ever had that conversation?
No, but I know that he did.
He's
so
hardcore.
I got a bond with him.
I'd like to see who can pin who.
Yeah.
I'd like to.
I'm sure.
I don't even know. I'd like to just watch. I'll have a Cadillac margarita on the side.
Operative word C. Yeah.
I'd like to watch. I'll be a voyeur.
Yeah. So I was very big into athletics, and as growing up, it was a good time.
Yeah, and I know that you've talked a lot about your mom as a key influence in your life.
Yeah.
What qualities do you think you got from her?
Ooh, I think acceptance, compassion, tenacity. So when I was around the time I was a teenager, my mom, my little brother and sister and I moved to Texas and started over. And so I got to live on a ranch and observe my mom work through a pretty tough time. And I asked my mom once what her philosophy was in life or in parenting. And she said, I just wanted to accept you guys no matter what.
Oh my gosh!
And so I think
we all need to take a lesson from her.
It was, So that's a pretty powerful. And I feel like my wife and I have, that's one of those values we have with our kids. They're each very unique, big personalities, and we sort of see them for who they are. Now she was tough, though. She was tough. I definitely had the moments.
But who gave you the guidance to like get good grades? Because clearly you did. You went on to go to Berkeley, and
thank you. Well, my dad and my mom both had high expectations, and then I think my older siblings is just. I think all of my siblings have a desire to perform and achieve.
Mm-hmm. And was it hard for you moving from California to Texas, and then did you go back to California after that?
Yeah, for Berkeley.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it was different. I don't know if I'd say, especially in retrospect, it grows you a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was cool. I got to live on a ranch. I bred, broke, showed draft horses.
That's so cool. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah.
And so have you been able to maintain those relationships from childhood?
Yeah.
Are those people like in awe of what you're doing? I mean, you're really having an impact on the world, which is not many people can say.
I think they still think I'm a goofball as a kid.
Well, you are. You can be both.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that, but I think I'm just a goofball.
You're a goofball.
Yeah.
Okay, so were
I
you
think
like
so.
class
As a
clown?
kid, I think I was always trying to be kind of lively, making people feel good
Yeah.
and
Well,
happy. And that's always been who I
you're great
was.
at that. And so how did you choose Berkeley?
It was actually, I actually was fortunate to be accepted to this rigorous honors program. And I'm glad someone came into my class in high school and pitched this program to go dive deep in the humanities. And it was at a community college. And so I got to go to community college for 2 years, and it was some of the best experience of my life. And it really helped expand the way I think about learning and I think about curiosity in a way that I never had been exposed to. I started to get inklings of it in high school, but it really kind of blew my mind. And then I started to speak up. I was about being very purposeful. I actually thought I was going to do drama conservatory before this because I was applying at some of the major drama conservatories in the country, but I was doing theater. And so I thought I would pursue theater. I got to do all these really cool plays, which are funny stories, but I don't want to digress too much. And so after that, I decided, okay, I'm going to go normal academic route. And I'm very purposeful, and somebody challenged me to go to a place like Berkeley. And to be honest, I don't think I could have told you where it was on the map. And
I mean, Berkeley is
I knew
like
it was in California.
hard to get into.
I knew it was in California, and I knew it was famous, but I didn't know anything other than that. And so I went. I remember going with my mom and my sister to get my apartment to live there the first time I visited there.
Yeah. So what did you end up studying at Berkeley?
Political science. I thought I was going to do psychology and political science both, and then I eventually just did political science.
Yeah. And so when I think of you, I think you're like, I don't know, deliberate, mindful, careful about your choices.
Thank you.
So were you that person in college? Like, where'd you go right after college?
I don't know. Right after college, I tried to get a job at an adoption agency. I didn't get the job.
To do...
I just wanted to work there. I don't know. It was back in Texas. I had to go back to Texas and get that job, but it didn't work out. And so then I ended up working for sort of a management consultant on government performance. And they do kind of think tank work on government redesign. And it's an incredible experience. And I got to do that, thinking about government performance, government redesign, based out of San Diego. And this was at the time when the California recall was starting. And so Arnold Schwarzenegger was launching his political career. So I got sucked into a lot of that.
Yeah. And so was that the kind of beginning of your...
No, it was in college.
So
You're
tell
going to
me
ask me
about-
about that. It was just, I think the role I played in my family or my family experience, thinking about how ideas have consequences, how the idea of family has consequences, the idea of relationships, the idea of your sense of the world. If I could digress for a second, I don't know, but actually it's not a digression.
You can digress
it's totally
for longer than a second.
It is totally relevant, actually, to
Okay.
your question of how I got into sort of this, cause business, so to speak. So when I was a kid and I got to travel to the Soviet Union and then again Russia for wrestling and judo, I'm wrestling there, and I'm still a kid, but I'm wearing Russian warm-ups because you trade with your kind of primary competitors. And I'm wearing these Russian warm-ups, and I was walking around Red Square, and a translator or this military guy says, hey, Amerikansky. And so I thought I was fitting in. I was wearing the Russian warm-ups, and he says, the translator says he wants to know if you're an American. And I'm like, I'm wearing the warm-ups. How did he know? And he says, they speak. He comes back, and he says, he said he could tell you're an American because you walk like you're free.
Oh.
And that had the most profound impact on me. And I didn't intellectually understand it. I just thought, the way I walk. And at the time, you would trade gum for a military watch or jeans for something much more, rich.
Right.
And the whole idea of America as the beacon for the world was alive and well. And so that it just stuck. And I started getting very romantic about the idea that there are ideas in the world that shape us in the most subtle ways and the simplest ways that end up having a very transformative impact.
And did you feel at the time kind of quote unquote American and proud
Oh,
to be
yeah, very
American?
patriotic.
Very patriotic.
I'm a very patriotic
what did that
person.
mean to you?
What does it mean to be
Yeah,
an American?
we had
What
a
does it mean to be
Jeffersonian
patriotic?
dinner talking about this.
Yeah.
Like, just what does it mean and when did you feel it? And everybody has very different answers. It's actually kind of fascinating.
Well, you still get you still get themes. It's actually, we do these delegations around the world with Gen X, and I think an American could still answer the question, like, what does it mean to be an American? And it's like, well, the pursuit of freedom, responsibility, justice, equality, e pluribus unum.
Well, some people just say like
independence.
Burgers and hot dogs.
Yes, I hope that wasn't the case at our Jeffersonian dinner.
No, but I'm saying like it's actually since then I want to ask people questions like this.
Well, I think at this day and age, I think we've got quite a bit distant from the sense of purpose and the sense of cohesive national identity, and that's how it is today. But I think when you're at the time, especially when I was younger, I mean, I was born and raised at the time when the Soviet Union and the fear of mutually assured destruction and global ideological struggle was still very present. And we've grown up in a very abundant, wealthy period of time. And so you start to lose, I think, some of that commitment of like what makes it great. So to your question,
and how do we maintain it?
How do you maintain it? And I think to your question of what does that mean? Well, I think it means freedom. It means the opportunity to try, the opportunity to achieve with minimal limitations. And we don't always get it right as a country. And I think that's what makes it, that's part of the American experiment. You have to recommit to it every single day.
Yeah.
As a person and as a people and as a society. And I think that's an incredible thing.
Yeah.
When you go around the world, and you often ask people, what does it mean? With our trips that we've done, we take business leaders, our members, people like you. We've done this together in Cuba.
Yeah.
But we'll go meet with either heads of state or leaders of countries, business, political, governmental, activists, thought leaders. And oftentimes, leaders in other countries, if you said, what does it mean to be X? It's not as distinct. This is an identity together. And I think we've unfortunately lost quite a bit of that. But I was very passionate, very patriotic, didn't grow up with much means by any means. There was periods of time where we didn't know if life could fall apart, but we kept going. And I think part of that is because we happen to be, we live in this country.
And so you were fueled at the time by the idea of having a better life.
Yeah. And that there are ideas in the world about what it means to have a better life, and I wanted to understand that.
And how did you ingest
to be
information?
A vehicle for that.
Like, how did you learn?
Well, at that time, I just became very curious. There would be like Hare Krishna guys in the airport, and I'd go talk to them. And my mom loves telling that story. I would go.
That's so
I just like talking to people. But then, it was really interesting after I was injured, and then after moving to Texas, I wrestled for a little while, but once I started getting into different things, civics, volunteering, as I mentioned, theater, and so you're exposed to different people and these cross-section of different ideas. And so here I grew up a kid who was really around sports the overwhelming majority of my life. And then my family owned car washes and ice houses in like South Central and East LA and Compton and places like that. So I was fortunate to always be around different types of people and things. And then in Texas, here I am, it's Texas. It's conservative. I'm doing theater, and I made all kinds of like LGBTQ friends, and then that was interesting. And I'm getting to discover how people develop their own journey. And then I go to this honors program, and you're studying humanities. You're studying what makes life worth living. What is that journey? What is the meaning of life? And then I go to Berkeley, and you cannot have a sense of the world or even remotely have a whiff of opinion about it at somewhere like Berkeley and someone not completely jump into your face. And so that, I think, was sort of throwing into the frying pan of, whoa, I have to really think a bit more sharply about what I believe and why. And
was there a certain cause that you felt super passionate about in college?
Well, I was in college during 9/11. And so I started...
Such a baby.
I started to see that, it was of the own exposure to, as an adult, we didn't really have a sense of what does evil in the world look like, and people coming after us, because this was, again, after the fall of the Berlin Wall. And so on Berkeley's campus, it kind of unleashed all these forces of a lot of bitterness about this country and our role in the world, and I was very confused by that. And so that led me to a lot of of searching, of just understanding the issues, understanding how people come to certain conclusions. And so it was kind of an awakening, I think. But I was already philanthropically active. We would run children's hospitals, run teddy bear drives for the Children's Hospital of Oakland. I always wanted to help people. And so doing a lot of community service and then becoming politically active, especially on Berkeley's campus, you just get exposed to a heck of a lot of different points of view.
I'm sure. And so all of this sounds like it's like perfectly aligned to taking you through a journey to lead you to Gen Next. But how did that even come to be?
Let me give first the why.
Yeah.
Because you did mention in the intro the premise. And I think the world looks better in the future if the best and brightest today are really understanding the issues that are going to shape it. And we live at a time where we're complaining all the time, sometimes with good reason, about the lack of leadership in our country. And we live at a time when there's a breakdown in institutions and there's a breakdown in trust. And I think that's because there's a breakdown in developing our own leaders and our own sense of purpose. And so we exist to help these wildly talented, influential people who all have enormous social capital. They have followers, they have companies, they have families. And so we help them understand what are the issues that shape the world what are the issues that shape the world in which our kids are going to grow up. And then along the way, we take on some big ideas. So if you're looking for the quick soundbite, it's a community of leaders who are taking on and overcoming and creating opportunities for future generations.
Yes. And so the themes, as far as the things that Gen Next cares most deeply about, why do you think those are the three? And if you want to talk about them.
Yeah, economic opportunity, education, and global security.
Yeah. Why do you think those are the three that matter most? And when people start talking to you about all sorts of other subjects that are, important, why are those the three that Gen Next focuses on the most?
What has the longest tail and the widest reach to shape and drive and create prosperity? There's a lot of other functional issues underneath those, in some cases outside of those, that they're important. But we try to focus. You ever heard the term "a rising tide raises all ships"?
Yes.
So we try to focus on the tide, and we believe that those three issues are what move the tide.
What's your biggest challenge as far as people understanding what Gen Next is?
I think well, these are my words, but it's a big idea. It's a romantic idea. We're taking on a lot. We're solving a leadership deficit. We're dealing with security issues. We're dealing with education issues. And I think nowadays people want everything easy, and they want it short-sighted, and they want it pithy. And here we are saying, no, it's important to be on a journey. It's important to be in a community. It's important to take the long view. And so how do you have the rigor of measurement and analysis, but the beauty of personal growth and civic life and a sense of purpose? Those are some. We live in a time today where people want more of the former than the latter, and they want it now.
Yeah.
And so I think it has more to do with that. But if you're just saying, I think it's a big idea, and we're trying to accomplish a lot, and we're at a stage as an organization where we're still relatively young relative to how impactful and larger we want to be. And so as you grow, things start to be more refined.
Yeah. And you've been the CEO now for 10 years?
11 years as this iteration. And then we were working on sort of a precursor to the organization for a few years, and that would total 14.
Wow. And so what are you at this
Let me take that as an example,
wow.
right?
Like, what are you most proud of right now? I mean, obviously, speaking at the White House was crazy.
I actually think it is sitting across from you right now. And that's, I'm not trying to be cute.
You can't see him, but he's actually very cute.
Oh, gosh.
Now he's blushing.
I am.
And he's well-dressed.
I think that if my premise is that I want people who are wildly accomplished and deeply purposeful to take an interest in what's going on in the world, if that's my motivation and to help facilitate that journey, then sitting across from you is one of the most impactful things that I could possibly do in this world. Because I think that your journey, and then you aggregate all of the different members that we have like you, you start to have a long tail of impact well over time. Yes, we've done collaborations with Google or Jigsaw, technically Google Tech Incubator, on countering violent extremism, and we've really helped define the space on online and offline de-radicalization against both jihadists and white supremacists and all of the forms. And I think that's how I ended up at the White House. It was the Obama White House. And then we've worked with, at this stage, Interpol, law enforcement, the U.S. Congress. It's been exciting, and I think we should be really proud of that. Our membership has grown to hundreds of people across all over the country. And when I started, we had 8. I think we have good relationships with elected officials of everybody from the governor of Arizona, who's a Republican, and the governor of Colorado, who's a Democrat. And at this day and age, you just don't see enough of that level of kind of depth, collaboration, intention, thinking about where the world is going. So all these things I am very, very proud of.
And what do you do to stay informed?
I mean, I read a lot of stuff, but I have also in a role where content is a big driver, and people, like, our business is people and ideas. And so I have no shortage of the opportunity to get access to information.
But now there's so much fake news, there's so much going around.
I don't pay attention. I do not pay
read?
attention to the 24-hour news cycle. I would strongly discourage people from paying attention to the 24-hour news cycle. I think it's bad for our country. So I don't really pay attention to that, but I read books, I read op-eds, I read articles. I know the things that I'm interested in, so I look for those. And it's everything from ocean exploration to politics to social and upward mobility. It's a full range of interests, but I mean, I'm on Twitter. I have email newsletters. I have podcasts. I have books. I have access to the same information everybody else has. I think I just curate it in a way that helps me have a broad intellectual diet because I have a broad set of interests and things I care about.
And so when you go to some of these delegations in these other countries and you're meeting with heads of state, what do you do to prepare? They're looking to you.
Yeah, study up. So if we have experts in our community, we'll go to them. If we have, so we'll do briefings. Like I remember we did a delegation to China, and we went to Beijing, Shanghai, and Qingdao, and we got a briefing from a few top experts and who are non-governmental, and we also got briefings from the government. And you learn things like, don't mention the 3 T's, Tibet, Taiwan, and Tiananmen. Don't talk about that. And we're like, well, why? Why? What is that? And so that opens a whole new level of doors, and that's just through the course of preparation. We
how did you prepare for this last trip? I want to know.
So this last trip we just did, it was themed after the world feels very fragmented and very rudderless today. Not just in our countries, this is happening all over the world. And you sort of start to, why? What's going on? When do you pinpoint this? And so the last time that there was the perception of cohesion or stability was during the Cold War. And you had 2 major powers. And so 30 years ago, this year, the Berlin Wall fell. So we wanted to see what does the fall of the Berlin Wall from 30 years ago teach us about the politics today and the politics of where we're going to go and the type of world our kids are going to grow up in. And so we went to Berlin, met with leaders of Angela Merkel's party, the Chancellor of Germany, and went and toured the wall. We met with survivors of a Soviet prison. We met with a refugee from East Germany. And you don't hear these stories anymore, and especially in the United States. I still think people have extraordinary hardship today around the world that we just don't even, unfortunately, it's not reported. But at this time, the world was living under half of the world was living under severe oppression, and people were desperate for freedom. And so we got to meet these people who struggled for it and what that looked like. Then we went to Poland. We went to Auschwitz to see what horror and terror looks like and what is and could be at stake. We went to Gdansk, where Lake Walesa is. And so we got to meet with President Walesa, who built a thriving European country. He's a founding father of this country. And he was just an electrician, a shipyard worker who decided that he believed in freedom and democracy and organizing workers, and it totally figuratively stabbed the Soviet Union in the eye, and that helped precipitate the fall of the Berlin Wall and all the freedom that's unleashed in the world. So we got to meet with him, a number of others. who are leaders of this movement. And then we went to Warsaw. And so when I'm preparing for this, I'm reading the stories of the people we're meeting, which are extraordinary. I'm reading about the politics of the time. In this case, you have many decades. So, books. If you like the Cold War, there's a book called, I think it's just called The Cold War, A Brief History by Gaddis, Gaddis. And fascinating, great book, good summary. Watched a little bit of like Red Dawn and some of the old pop culture. And we made a playlist, and you hear the music at the time where you have U2, all New Year's Day by Bono is really about the Polish Solidarity Movement, or by U2. So this is sort of like Walesa inspired. Sting has a song about Russians saying they'll destroy everybody. And like people were really, taken by what was going on in the world. Yeah. And I think it's really important that you go revisit that so you get really reminded what could be at stake.
Oh, absolutely.
Because the world,
the big
you'll
saying,
repeat it if you don't know about it.
That's a big saying in the Jewish community, like never again. And same thing with 9/11, never again. Yeah. And these things, like you just think that they would not happen.
They're just,
but
things don't happen again unless
anti-Semitism is at an all-time high. Yeah.
To that point, we have a project that we've done. We call them ventures because we do venture philanthropy styled work, which means we'll get in early stage, help build a team, help build a plan, help invest. And we have a project that disrupts the access to information online for radicalizing individuals. Yeah. And so if you're a at-risk 20-something-year-old or teenager who is radicalizing either as a jihadist or a white supremacist, you will get content from us that will hopefully de-radicalize you. And we found that about 56,000 people in the United States alone last year, and this is an ongoing basis, it spikes, it doesn't go down, it spikes, were searching some combination of how to kill Jews, how to join ISIS. And even after the last El Paso attack, which was largely, actually explicitly targeting Mexican Americans, you still saw a spike of about 500 to 600% of search behavior online about how to kill Jews. And so the hatred, it has a way of spreading, and especially when you match the access to information, technology, combine that with a sense of loss of identity that people have across the board. You have an opioid crisis, you have suicides are on the rise, terrorism recruitment is on the rise. I think this is all related to also the breakdown in institutions and the breakdown in trust and the breakdown in sense of purpose. I believe all these things are related because we're living in a time where people just don't know where they fit in the world.
One of the best, I love all of the programs that we do at Gen Next, but one of the things I loved most, it was actually a really small, intimate thing with the Seattle Police Department where we were listening to 3 formers.
Oh, yeah.
Former extremists. And you think, like, it's like you picture an alcoholic and you picture them on the side of the road with like a brown paper bag. Yeah. And it's like, no, that's actually not what an alcoholic looks like. And these formers one was a woman and she like lived in a great home.
She's an incredible mom.
Incredible mom. Same with the other guy who had become a jihadist. And some of it was birthed out of like feeling what the woman had been like raped and she was feeling shame and she found like a relationship with this man who kind of converted her and she was listening to the wrong music, surrounding herself with the wrong people and was looking for a sense of belonging. And these people kind of brought her in to their world and they became not KKK, but like...
They were neo-Nazis.
Neo-Nazis.
They're neo-Nazis.
Yeah. And it was crazy because I felt scared, but then I didn't feel scared. These are just human beings.
Well, that's good. I like the shift.
But you know what I mean? Yeah. You just hear that and you're like, these are, especially as a Jew, I'm like, these people are out to get me.
We did.
Or you. We're not like Aryan Nation people. And so it can get a little scary. And then you realize these are just human beings who have been misguided. And our job is to like...
We got pulled into this. We, Gen X, got pulled into this a little over 10 years ago. And the argument, or the plea, so to speak, was... radicalization is spreading in speed and size and forms. And the nature of the threat, you just can't kill your way out of it. And the recruitment is going to increase. And the U.S. government, governments in general, are not set up to curb the tide of recruitment. It is usually an identity-driven problem. And how many politicians or bureaucrats or government leaders are effective at connecting with somebody who's struggling with a sense of identity. And so they needed the agility of technology and people and civil society. So we got pulled into it. And so, your observation about their journey, I think, is something that more people need to get exposure to understand the nature of the threat on one side of it. Now, they're definitely not naive. They're bad guys and they need to be killed. And there are plenty, though, of people who, if we could get there early enough, they might not have ended up being a bad guy. And we have these formers who will tell you that they radicalized often, trauma or a sense of wandering, will lead them there. But they often de-radicalize. It's not usually a moment. It's more of, it's not an event. It's over time. It's a process, not an event. And they will, it's usually someone who kind of reached out to them. Someone who sort of gave them a different point of view that they never thought. And it planted a seed of doubt. And over time, that seed gets watered. And then they end up living lives that are not just full of redemption, but also highly effective in helping us prevent more terrorist attacks and more individuals being recruited to radical, violent organizations.
One of my things and I am probably your worst nightmare because I'm always pushing you on this, but is the hey, but what are we doing? What is the measurement of what Gen Next is doing?
Yeah.
Because all of this is aspirational and it's great, and I get it's a big, lofty, huge goal, but are there things that you can point to say, we've made progress?
Well, so every former violent extremist, we have a few hundred of them now, is a measurement of impact. Every one of the founders of our network of former violent extremists, he's personally recruited out of violent groups about 400, and that's one example. Online, this is an evolving space, and so it's important to get in there before you even know what the ultimate metric is going to be. You're focused probably more on KPIs than certain metrics, but you get into the space and you realize, how many people do you need to reach? I referenced 56,000. And how many of those 56,000 will interact with this? Well, we know it's about 3% that are the highest risk population. We know that of those 56,000, of the jihadists, women tend to consume the content quite a bit more than men. We know that they also tend to like Rihanna and Taylor Swift and terrorist leaders. We know that.
That's interesting. I love Rihanna and Taylor. I went to both of those concerts.
Now I'm worried about you.
You shouldn't be. I swear it wasn't me.
So on some of these initiatives, you figure out the right measurement. Some of those are reach, some of it's KPIs. But I also believe that if you want to measure the distribution of ideas and journeys, then you track the pathway. You don't track a destination. You and so as an example for us, our members, you say you want to shape a leadership class in our country. So what does that mean? Are you going to measure how many people run for office? Are you going to measure how many people are on nonprofit boards? Are you going to measure how many people write books, how they learn? Are they going to change the conversations they have at dinner tables or over podcasts? You could do that all day long. You could say measure, measure, measure. But it is some certain things like a sunset, a friendship, a marriage. They shouldn't be measured, or you shouldn't be overly rigorous about it. You should get a structure to bring that journey to some type of fruition, but that could go in many different directions in a free society, and that's what we live in.
I like it.
So we're very rigorous about measurement.
We're dealing
with Google and the FBI, but I think that we do. To my point previously, is people really want what is it? Measurement. I could give you those answers all day long, but I always feel the need to push back because I think that journey and ideas and giving that time is totally undervalued, and just there's a shortage of it today.
And so when you're trying to find members, because I know that I had a couple friends who told me about Gen Next and they loved it, and I think they had just gotten back from the World War II trip, or China. Anyway, they were just going on and on and on. And I joined without coming to any events.
I like that. You're decisive.
Yeah, I was like, I'm in. Well, honestly, I joined because I was curious, and it was an area of my life that I needed to round out because I'm not kind of involved in any way with politics, and I wanted to be in a room with people having conversations that have all sorts of different views and have it be comfortable to talk about and to learn. And I also wanted to feel safe. So I was probably most drawn to education and global security. I mean, obviously economic prosperity is
you're a
important.
pretty impressive entrepreneur.
But I felt like I was like, okay, I'm around a lot of business leaders, but I'd like to learn as much as I can about what the situation is with our education system, how we can improve it, what kind of world we're raising our children in. And so it's been great. But what are other traits that you look for in members?
I also think it's special to be attracted to, you mentioned, you're always around impressive people, or you're an entrepreneur, business minded. You're around other accomplished leaders, entrepreneurs, executives. But I think it's also nice to be around people who are not defined by their status. They're kind of defined by their aspiration. They're defined by their sense of purpose, their curiosity. And so we take that magic and deploy it on these big issues that shape future generations. So to your question of the type of experience we try to create as we build a leadership class and take on these big issues, is we try to make sure we attract not just wildly accomplished people, but people who are really curious, like as you said, people who are very purposeful, people who like to have a really good time, because sometimes these issues do get really heavy. Also create an environment for learning. The other thing that we do as part of the experience is we make sure that knowledge is generated and distributed. And we do it in a really dynamic way. It's pretty remarkable to take a group of leaders and the group of members that went are extremely impressive human beings, take them to go meet a figure of history and understand what is motivating them, and talk about where is the world going and what are we not paying attention to that we need to pay attention to. And I think just committing your life, or a portion of your life, to a legacy that is impactful outside of your business and your family.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. One of the things when I first met you that I figured when they said, oh, you've got to meet Michael, the CEO, I pictured a 60-year-old man. Like they were talking about you, or like you were this like real legend, and you really have such an impact on everyone that you meet. But you walk in and I'm like, oh my God, he's like a hot...
Well,
young. I'm gonna get sued.
I'm not going to sue.
But you know what I'm saying. And I remember when I sat down with you, you talked so much about your wife Jenny, and you talked about your children, and that basically your purpose was to give them a better life.
Yeah.
And to help drive kind of where our country's going to the extent that you can. Yeah. And I thought that was just so defining as far as who you are.
I thank you. I literally, when I do pay attention, see headlines, pay attention to what's going on in the world from a headlines, news, current events standpoint, I will usually ask myself, do I think my kids or their kids are going to see the same headlines? And if the answer is yes, then I start to really think about the difference that we can make around those headlines. So countering violent extremism. That's not just a frightening threat from the point of view of we don't want to die or we don't want to go to war. It also is the real purpose is to change our way of life. That's the point of terrorism. And I don't want them to grow up in a world that's not just not paranoid, but I think less free. And making those trade-offs, or you read or you see the headlines about the state of our education system, or our losing our sense of competitiveness and pursuit and the value of free enterprise and community and civics and institutions. My kids seeing leaders like you and our members, and hopefully my wife and me, who take an interest in what's going on in the world, then they will go and take an interest in what's going on in the world, and they will be more effective at that time. And that's, I think, the generational promise that we have to make over and over and over again. But you need people to pay attention to it. Yeah. I think more than money, more than time, attention is a much more powerful currency.
Yeah, I agree. And so you said your children. How many children are we at now?
We're at 4.
4?
Yeah.
Dude.
As of actually, as of August 10th. But also sort of as of yesterday, because all of our kids came to us with these very different journeys.
How old are your kids now?
So I have a 9-year-old. I have a 9-year-old son. Yeah. And so he was a very pleasant surprise, and he is every single day. He's incredible. I have twin daughters, who are also, it's funny, one of them was talking to me yesterday about being a veterinarian. The other one wanted to be a pilot. And they also want to raise and lead a family. And then my son and they were talking about what does that mean? And it was just super cute. And then so the twins were also surprised. They're fraternal twins. And then we adopted a baby boy this week.
Yeah, that is
so I have
so
to have
cool.
a boy. So he's very young. So,
yeah, a little itty bitty infant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Huge congrats.
Thank you.
I'm really excited for you, and I've never met your children, but seeing you light up when you talk about them is really nice. And I think that I know that men are playing a bigger role in the household these days than ever before, but to see them not just, oh, hey, I'll help you change a diaper, or hey, I'll help, make dinner, or I'll send you off while I watch the kids, kind of like a babysitter. Being like an engaged dad who's thinking about shaping little people is unique.
When I got home from our trip to Germany and Poland, the kids really wanted to know, what is it? And it was funny watching one of my daughters ask, wait, what were the soldiers like at that time? And then my son trying to piece together the timeline between Gorbachev and Stalin. He's not super wonky about it. It's just these are epic stories to him, and they should be to all children, because they should be to all adults, because they are epic stories of human struggle and how we achieve. And so he was asking, like, what? Because our hotel was right by where President Reagan said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And so we were talking about that. And then we go to Poland, and we're learning about the ghetto uprising in Poland, and we're learning about the Warsaw uprising in Poland. And usually in World War II lore, you only learn about France and Western Europe and D-Day, which is all really important. But we forget that, a lot of the Jews in Poland were part of the reason why Hitler invaded Poland was to try to exterminate them as quickly as possible. And you learned that Hitler was totally crushing Warsaw. These people the Polish fought ferociously to try to keep their country alive, to try to hold him at bay, even though they were occupied very early. And then in the Battle of Warsaw in 1944, in the same year that we went and did Operation Overlord D-Day, Hitler is crushing Poland, and Stalin is waiting for him to crush Poland before he sends in the Red Army. And then he wanted to go in and kind of occupy it. It's done more easily. And you teach a child this, you learn about vigilance and what morality is, and why weren't we playing a role? What role were we playing? And you start grappling with those questions at a really young age. And I think for the rest of his life, he's probably going to pay attention to what's going on in the world quite a bit differently. And
or
so
even just right next to him on the playground.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, it's got correlations that are like more simplified for their age, to be like, hey, you don't just stand by.
You don't just stand. Exactly. I mean, he was saying that he was saying that actually yesterday about some kids at school who were being mean to each other. And he's like, we can't let people do that.
Right.
It is interesting. I love that he pays attention to these things in as much as he pays attention to cartoons and video games.
Well, I think it's awesome. Okay, I have a couple of personal questions for you. I know you're meditating now and you're journaling. What do you do to just
when I'm not meditating?
Chill? Chill. I mean, just like brain candy. Like I'm not going to focus on
nothing. Hot tub and margaritas with the kids and the family and my wife, and just chilling.
Sounds like an interesting combo.
Yeah, we all do.
Night noodle.
They will literally come in and like, hey, yeah, Daddy, can we get some margaritas? And they know mine has tequila and theirs doesn't. And then so that's the big one. I think is just time with my family is a big one. And then if I want to just totally let loose, like a day party on a beach in Mexico with a DJ and having a good time.
Okay, done and done. Yeah. When are we going? I'm like, you had me at DJ Mexico. You can be in the hot tub with the kids.
Yeah, sure.
Have fun with that. Sometimes I feel fascinated by how people manage their time. Do you have a game plan, or are you on your heels, kind of taking stuff as it comes?
I just try to make the best of all the productivity literature. I mean,
okay, so tell us what to do. Give us the Cliff Notes.
You develop your judgment about what are the most important things to focus on. I mean, I'm still learning. I'm not. It's awkward me answering this question because I'm not an expert on this.
Yeah, but you get a lot done. To read as much as you read, to travel, the time with the kids. I mean, you get a lot done in a day. I mean, you're not in this because you're some like hedge fund manager with like 17 assistants.
Yeah, no, it's all passion for me.
Yeah.
But we have our membership base is really involved, as you know this. You're not just members, you're not customers, you're not donors, you're more like employees that are really involved. And so that helps. Our team, we have a really diverse and dynamic and really passionate team, a little over about 20. And so that's really incredible. So that helps. And I think just my couple simple tricks are, I think, one, the meditating and journaling actually helps a lot. Mm-hmm. It course corrects a lot of what's going on in your unconscious. And I think that too often people let the unconscious drive you without knowing. And then I also try to make it a point each day to have I know what I need to accomplish that day, so I have to make it a point to do that first.
Because otherwise, it
could be a task, it could be a decision that needs to be made. It could be you need to brainstorm something. It's just like,
and when you need brain
X
space, do you have a place that you go? Like, I just need to think and write, or think and map this out.
No, I will do it in my car.
Hot tub.
I will do. Yeah, I will meditate in my office, in the Jeep at home. It doesn't matter. I think there's an element too of kind of the former athlete in me, which is like you just go do it.
Yeah, less thinking, more doing.
But it is so. I think the bigger thing for me, actually, somebody said to me, one of our members who's a very successful entrepreneur, and I asked him this question. I was like, how do you have so much time? And he said, it's not, time management is a myth. It is all about controlling the decisions you make. And so if I could get really good at making decisions about where I spend my time and where I dedicate my attention, and that doesn't mean, I think it does, I mean, in some sense, in effect, it means learn to say no more.
No. I love it. I just had a little like aha, Oprah-y moment, because I do find that I'm making decisions that I'm like, why am I doing that again?
Yeah. So the more proactive and intentional that you could be about the decisions that you make, over time, you'll get more leverage, you'll accomplish more, the riffraff will phase out.
Yeah. Well, since you've listened to every podcast, which is like beyond flattering and amazing, you know what's coming next. Mm-hmm. You probably prepared something fabulous.
Well, I don't know what's coming next. So we'll see.
I might just try to mess you up here. No, but really, what fuels you?
I mean, a legacy, but I think and having a meaningful legacy. And so that's one of your guests talked about identifying, I think it was Richard Tate said, your gift. Finding your gift.
I love Richard Tate.
Community, connection. I think life is this balance between ambition and gratitude. And those things aren't in tension, but I think you need to find a way to keep those things moving together. And then if you could put your gift to work in that context, then I think you'll have a pretty powerful legacy. And so, yes, my kids fuel me. I mean, obviously, but I think when I think of that,
legacy,
it's all connected.
Kids,
so when I think like, how do I answer that question? What enables me to deliver, show up for people and ideas that I care about? I think it is trying to be very intentional about developing a legacy. And I don't mean in a calculating way. I mean more day to day, moment to moment, value to value.
I love it. Well, thank you for being on the podcast. I'm so grateful. Seriously.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the What Fuels You podcast. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes, Google Podcasts, or Spotify, and follow us on social media to keep up with the latest news and episodes. You can also contact us at podcast@fueltalent.com to provide feedback, ask questions, and share topics or guests you would like us to cover in the future. We hope you feel inspired by our guests and that we have helped fuel your day. Join us next time for another episode of What Fuels You.